Rev, for the audience, for the uninitiated, who are you and what do you do?
Well, I'm a digital artist and merchandise maker. I've got a little business, Rev Level, most known for its website and stuff, but I essentially make pop culture, video game inspired, movie inspired merchandise. So mainly T-shirts, some hoodies, mugs and caps and things like that. So yeah.
Cool. Well, it's interesting. I think we got connected because I went shopping for a T-shirt. We did an episode of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Sorry, I nearly forgot the name of the film. But once found the T-shirt for your site, had a nose through, and was just really impressed. And it was one of these things where I bought the T-shirt and had very low expectations. Take that within the spirit that's intended. But, and when it came through, I was like, well, actually, this is pretty good because the T-shirt, and for those looking on the YouTube, it's well, maybe you can tell me, Reb, how do you go about making these T-shirts and talk about the quality?
Yeah, well, it's my background prior to getting involved in all this. I used to work in fashion retail as a kid. I worked for River Island for years and got into the more formal side of it. I used to run the formal wear department. And when it came to buying T-shirts of all my nerddom and the things I liked, they were always terrible. You go and buy some T-shirt from some show, or it comes bundled with a a special edition of something or whatever, and was fit like hell. They look like a sleeping bag with a big logo like splattered across the front that would peel off after 2 washes. And after years of trying to figure out, I used to get mine tailored. I used to go to a tailor that used to do our suits for the shop and get them to tailor all these like special T-shirts to fit me. And then eventually, after years outside of that industry and working in offices and things, and in more like the financial side of things, really struggle to find these types of T-shirts and stuff. Years go by, I work in video games and stuff, and start getting into illustration and creating some designs that so I start getting made to put onto T-shirts for myself. And then eventually a few people were kind of saying, oh, could you get one for me? Could you make one for me? And I used to hire a company to make them. And they always came through in these like just very basic T-shirts. And again, I didn't love the quality. So I started digging into how can you get decent T-shirts that you like and make artwork that'll stay, that'll have a nice effect on the finished T-shirt and it will last forever.
Yeah.
So started digging in and found the right process. So as you're kind of alluding to there, on your T-shirt, it's embedded into the fabric. So it's not an ink or a paint that stays on top. It's a dye that becomes part of the material. So essentially we dye the material with the artwork. So it will never be removed. Obviously, if you put it on 100-degree wash, you might start to get some leaking issues.
Right.
But when you cater for them properly and everything, I found T-shirts that I liked. Initially, I used to use these Russell Athletic ones, but they started to bobble after a few washes. And, after a year or two of using those, I found these ones that you're wearing there. It's a much nicer material, slightly thicker, wears really well, fits nicely. And internationally, customers, in the US and stuff, you can sometimes find a little bit of a balance of that Euro cut to a more relaxed international cut. They seem to walk that fine line in between the two.
Right.
So yeah, the base T-shirts I use, I'm really happy with. Yeah.
Do you find there's a community out there that's a little bit more intense and hardcore commercially for you than another one? Let's say, look, I'm firmly got my feet in the Bond franchise. Is there Star? We'll get it away. Is there like Star Wars for you or Twin Peaks? I mean, do you find one's more popular than the other right now?
Twin Peaks it's great because it's got a really dedicated community in itself. And it's evergreen. So a few years ago, they finally did a 3rd series of it, which was like really overdue. So that was fervent at that point. But there's not been new Twin Peaks content for a long time. And still, every week Twin Peaks stuff goes out. And that's a good one that I bond with people on because it's so much more niche.
Yeah.
There's nothing bigger than Star Wars.
Cult, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Star Wars, I like Star Wars. as a confession, I'm more into the iconography of Star Wars than I am of the individual movies. I love the design of like the infinitely recognizable sound effects and the images, and all the build up around each character. Vader carries so much with him. I don't do any Vader merch, which like it feels like it's been done to death. I love focusing on the Death Star, so I do designs that kind of channel that in a different way. So my original was like a 70s disco style approach to the Death Star, and so it was like this Death Star 77, like very colourful disco bally, where it's just got the hollow middle, hollow here. It's just, oh, that's the Death Star kind of thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I say more like
and then
impressionistic of it. Just so you
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I've done probably 5 different, like, just following the silhouette of the Death Star designs, and one of them's like it's based on a surf shack. So the breaking between the top and the bottom of the Death Star is the waves of the water. So you've got a dark blue base, you've got a light blue top for the sky, and then where the extra circle is where the lasers come from. That's worked in with lines to just be the sun, like it's setting. So it looks like you're looking through a porthole at the waves and the sun setting, and it's a Death Star surf shack. So
right.
that's the and it's like take a ride on the dark side is the tagline. But it's just like this breaking things down to the core. And there's sort of 3 main styles I lean on. Quite traditional, quite bold graphics, and then, like you say, that sort of Liechtenstein, a little more detailed design.
And a bit of humour kind of thrown in, as in,
where possible.
Not taking it all so seriously.
Yeah, definitely.
Reb, I want to ask you something. It's a bit of a loaded question because we've already experienced it in a way. But where is the line for you in terms of what is homage and what is maybe licensed? And I'll perhaps talk about the T-shirt that I'm wearing when I posted this, and I was very proud to post it because I'm wearing the denim jacket, the Brad Pitt Cliff Booth outfit. I've got the red shades, the aviators somewhere, and I was wearing this T-shirt. And we were just fresh from seeing the film. I talked about it with a bunch of friends, and then I got a comment from Arianne Phillips saying that T-shirt's a knockoff. I was like, well, there you go. Cheers, sweetheart. But I took the post down because obviously I didn't really know the kind of terrain that I was treading on, I suppose, is for want of a better phrase. And I do get a point. Where I come from is that this T-shirt isn't being sold anywhere, as in, no one is producing these T-shirts. The original brand, the Roadster T-shirt, is no longer available, and it's not been available since, well, maybe the 60s or 70s when they were first done. Anyway, it's a bit of a verbose question, but where do you kind of sit on what is homage, what is licensed?
It's such a huge grey area, obviously, anyway, and you only need to see the sites like Redbubble and TeePublic and all the other sites where people are posting artwork based on existing IPs. And I've got stuff that's sanctioned by, Fox and by Twin Peaks. I have stuff that I sell on these places that, like, Twin Peaks get a cut off on, like, Redbubble when they buy my Twin Peaks designs on there. It goes into the pot for them. But on my side, I don't work on that side of it. So, like you say, I'm being inspired by something, creating artwork on it and placing it onto merchandise and selling that. Yes, it is murky and grey. And I think I try to do it in good faith. It's like you say with the Cliff Booth. I initially made that T-shirt for myself.
Right.
We went to see it with my fiance, my sister, my brother, my brother-in-law. We all went to see it together. This film was great. Booth was the coolest character in the world. And I wanted that shirt. So I made it. And then a couple of people that I saw out and about wanted one. So I make it available. Why not? And then I just think, actually, when you look into it, I couldn't find it available anywhere. So, and versions that I've had people contact me who've bought other versions online. And again, like we've discussed, they've got that like transfer applied artwork that'll pick away. And and these like thick cotton shirts that, like, it's just not my go-to. And other people that have said, oh, finally, I've ordered 4 of these and this is the one kind of thing. So if I was contacted by the relevant sources and say, please take this down, then I will, and it has, as we discussed, it has happened before. there's things that I make in good faith that are like linked to a certain video game, for example, and then I'll get a request to take it down, and I obviously do immediately. But I'm not trying to go up there and place Once Upon a Time in Hollywood logo right in the middle of a
Right.
T-shirt and claim that that's me.
And that's what I
You know,
found mining through your site, was that there was no kind of subterfuge. It wasn't a pernicious place to hang out and go, oh, this guy is literally just lining his pockets on other people's IP. But I get kind of Arianne Phillips' point of view, is that, you know, there are so many other people that do.
yeah.
You know, for her, if she's just taking a first glance, not going into the weeds, she's just going to carpet bomb everyone and say, look, you can't do this. This is not something that you should be doing. But again, you're right. It's like it's a very thin line. There are grey areas.
I definitely understand like her perspective and people on that side of the fence. How can I not? You know, and as someone who's created artwork and had it stolen and used for other things, like, I appreciate that's not a nice feeling. It does, like I say, tiptoe across a funny boundary, because I can't find an official version of that shirt. If I'm told it's available here, take this down, or I don't need to be told it's available here. If someone says, you know, officially that someone from, you know, the company contacts and says, we own the IP, please stop. You're a Bond fan. I'm sure you'd love to have a wardrobe full of Tom Fords. It's not like you're buying makeshift Tom Fords and claiming they're real. Like, this isn't that, you know. And I'm not claiming to be tied in with anything. And my tagline used to be unofficially cool, was the concept of the whole thing in my early stages of the business. And I'm not claiming that I work with these studios to achieve this stuff. A few of my items have been picked up by places. I do this mug, walking back to Twin Peaks. I do quite a simple design. There's a place in Twin Peaks known as the Red Room or the Black Lodge or whatever, and it's got this black and white chevron floor, big red curtain, iconic. And I've used that template on a number of things, and quite a simple design. This mug is just a very simple take. I'm just breaking it down to its essentials. And Canongate Publishers bought a load off me of those mugs, and they published a David Lynch like biography, and they bought them off me to give to their staff.
Nice.
And then some more to send out on the publishing tour, you know. So, as you know, who's had a published piece of work, you know, finding ways to market them is sometimes obviously not the easiest if you want to do some unconventional marketing. So they bought them off me as an official David Lynch publisher to help them out. But it doesn't say anywhere on it, this is David Lynch's very specific piece, you know, or, you know, I'm not claiming that it's anything to do with it. And again, I've used his name on 2 designs. If his estate ever asked me to take his name off those designs, I gladly will. But it's that thing of people promoting his fandom, you know, they're wanting to be attached to what he's doing. That's the way I see it. If it's ever deemed that I'm taking money off his plate by, you know, producing a directed by David Lynch t-shirt or something, then it'll be down, you know.
And that's so true. I've been on so many sites where it's actually unclear if they're aligning themselves with certain franchises, or if they're even, I mean, it's quite clear in the price tag a lot of the time. I'm like, I don't think Tom Cruise is really the ambassador for this brand. But you know what I mean? There are so many people that kind of use, like, it's even using faces, even using like celebrities' faces to advertise their products is not something I do in any way. It's something that I assume you guys don't do either. So how many of is it just you? Are you kind of like the one-man band for this?
Just me. In my earliest stages, when I was pushing so much harder with it all, I've had help in the past, but it got to a stage where it was unenjoyably busy, and paying other people, I wanted it to be manageable from one person. There's some products that I have manufactured for me, and they can be distributed to other countries a bit quicker. There's like, we were talking about the Death Star before, like this hat. I don't embroider, but yeah, so I had this made.
Nice colours as well.
Yeah, cheers. There's 3 colorways for it. There's Vader black, Chewbacca brown, and then there was Hoth blue, and it's like a blue and a nice white mesh part on the back. Nice. But yeah, just it's like I can't produce that. I don't want the machinery to produce that. I don't want to have to teach myself how to embroider. Yeah. I found places that can make these things to a really high standard, and they produce them for me, and I buy them off them. Right. You know, and it's finding facilities to help customers and me when I'm happy with the products, because I want to QC things. Obviously, I'm not happy with something going out that's underwhelming. You know, but when it comes down to finding the right partner, there are people that do a really good job. So I'm the only one who works here and produces them. You know, that T-shirt that you have, I buy in the blank, but from there it's all me. Yeah.
Brett, lastly, I think everybody out there, including me, at some point has started a T-shirt brand or has had an idea for a T-shirt brand. And then maybe some have followed through with the idea more than others, and now they're sitting with shit tons of inventory in their garage and they can't shift it, right? Did I ever tell you about my idea for my T-shirt brand called Con Artists?
No.
All right, I'll be real quick because I've told this on the podcast before, I'm sure. So it was Con Artists. It was a pencil sketch of con artists in the day. Like, so the guy that sold the Eiffel Tower like 3 times, he said like the Eiffel Tower's going to get
a bridge to sell,
right. So did a pencil sketch of, or I should say my mum did, because she's the artist, of this guy.
She's a very good artist,
sort of stuff. And so there's a collection of con artists, and this was going to be a series of T-shirts. And went through the idea, set up the website, I got the labels made, got the first couple of prints, and just I had no one to sell it to because no one had heard of me. But that's by the by. So you made a success of this. What advice would you give to people that have kind of got a gem of an idea and want to take it further?
It depends on how you want to do it and what your approach is. You know, what's your USP? Like, if you don't have one, like if you've got an idea and you want, so for that, you could have the image on a blank white T-shirt, you know, of the con artist, and that concept is in itself the piece, you know. So like, if you want to produce it yourself and micromanage every minor detail, then you have to get into it deeper. There are different ways to print stuff. The expensive starting block is buying a direct-to-garment printer. You're looking at 10 grand to buy your printing materials before you've, you know, flipped one shirt. You can go to like drop shipping businesses that will produce it for you. Obviously, your overheads are increased then per unit, but you're not having to initially go straight into like heavy plant, you know, expensive materials and equipment. So there's different ways. If you've got resources, the time and the effort, and you've got an audience, then it's figuring out which print method's best for you. Some people use vinyl, some people use sublimation, some people use direct to garment, some people do screen printing, some people do just these like transfers and things, and there's probably a whole host of ones that I'm not considering. But have a look into what the basics are, what best suits your approach, and then figure out how to best utilize that equipment. Right. If you can go right into the deep end and spend, you know, tens of thousands on getting yourself started and a location, and you can get you know anything about web development and everything, all good. Yeah. If you can do something with a little bit smaller scale and start an eBay, an Etsy business, you know, and so you don't need to dedicate any real heavy space to it. See if you start getting some traction, and if not, kind of, you can see it's not too much of a blow. There are ways to, like I say, you can sell on Redbubble and TeePublic, and what you do
recommend
with those
any
sites.
Of those places though? Is there any one better than the other? Because I haven't shifted all I've shifted is mugs on Redbubble.
Yeah, well, realistically, between the two of them, it's sort of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, because where one focuses on this side of things and limits what you can get, they've got a clearer focus on what people can buy, whereas the other offers it on a whole host of more materials. And sometimes you might sell a duvet with your artwork on. That's
Right.
Oh, nice one, I've just made 20 quid off the back of not doing much work. But yeah, I think really, again, with them, it's getting a scattered approach, because you've got such specific products based on like a specific entity around you and your branding. Then it's only your audience that will find it and buy it. Whereas if you've got a little more of a broader scale like appeal outside of your niche, if you've got James Bond inspired merch all over there, then you'd catch a bigger audience.
Oh, you get it rather down in a second.
Precisely.
You
But
only have to put the word
It's,
Bond on there, and it goes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if
they're obviously very carefully protective of their IP and justifiably so. Yeah. There's so much iconography that goes with that, and whichever channels you go through, official Bond stuff is everywhere. You don't need to buy unofficial Bond stuff. And I was looking recently at some new Adidas, the Bond ones that my brother was showing me, and like there's such good subtle branding in there with them that it doesn't all have to be overt, and I mean, you and me, we like our Seamasters.
We do. I've got a diver's watch, but yeah, I do appreciate the Seamasters.
But it's like, you can pick up things to do with Bond, within it's out there, but I do think, sorry, back to the previous, if you were to sell more stuff on Redbubble, if you were approaching, okay, I want to increase my volume of what I'm selling, it's about getting more out there that can appeal to people just outside of that niche, I would say. So there are a million podcasters out there, and some of them with decent sized audiences who are looking into getting into the merchandising space. And I think if your dedicated audience is enough to keep you happy with what you sell, that's great.
Yeah.
If you need to get a bigger audience, it's having stuff that can appeal outside of that as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just figuring out what's the best lane for you.
Well, Rev, thanks for taking time out. I do have a few other questions. I was going to ask but it doesn't matter, because I feel like we've wrapped up quite a few of the important questions quite nicely, and I've got to take the dog out because he's circling the carpet and he's looking dangerous down here. He looks like he's going to do something. But I've really enjoyed talking to you and getting to know your brand, and like I say, I am a customer and certainly will be buying again. So
thanks very much. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, the website, rev-level.com. Place you can go to check them out, and also follow the journey on Instagram. rev_level is the place to hang out.